in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons will breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. You see, the question of identity is a fundamental one, and the question of identity becomes very quickly a group question, does it not? It becomes a question of categories. It becomes a question of categories. Which group do I put you in? Whom are you, and which group do you belong to? And hey, group identity is a very fundamental way in which we operate, and it's fundamental to getting ish done. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. How you doing, Dr. Thunder?
What's happening, man? I'm doing all right. Been a very eventful last couple of weeks, but all good stuff, man. All good stuff, including
Eventful-esque.
that this nice that might have been somewhat intentional there. The case closed, little promo there. That was a great inaugural episode that we had on Solo's channel this past Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And guess what? It's a weekly show. So you're going to see us again. And of course, it's Ike, Ramil Amir, and you can see actually Ramil over here. Let me see if I can make that a little more obvious. There we go. Ramil here, because I interviewed him last night, and that interview went live this morning. And then also we've got Chantel Simone, and then of course Solo TV 84 and myself. Case closed. So yeah, it's been eventful, all good stuff. Excited about tonight's show. Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. As we were acknowledging, identity is key. Identity is one of those things that is at the core issue of our consciousness, of our subjective consciousness, of our being, of our perception of our being. One talks about the salvation of one's soul. One wants to go to heaven, presumably with one's identity of some sort, right? So it is a fundamental question. And group identity, the question of categorizing you in a particular group, is a very key one. So hence, do you need to see people like you in order to feel a certain amount of impetus to succeed, in order for you to get a certain amount of access to succeed? Because this is about getting ish done. So let's slice it down to just basic the three, let's call it CPR, okay? You get confidence, you get protection, and you get the reputation of the group, right? You're able to tap into the marketing of the group, right? Let's talk about the confidence piece. That's the one that people generally are referring to when they talk about, well, I don't see anybody that is like me. I need to be adequately represented, right? I, myself, okay, who am I? It's Wallace. I am Wallace. I'm Wallace, and I have an electrical engineering degree, and I'm a black man out there, or kind of mixed Brazilian, Afro, Latino guy out there. And I go to LinkedIn. I got this sweet gig at LinkedIn as a software engineer. I go there, and I'm the only black person there. Okay. Now, the first thing I said is that there's the comfort, the familiar feeling aspect, and that's what a lot of people are saying. So let me ask you, Dr. Thunder, with regard to that first aspect, anything that you could say that's empathetic and perhaps also critical with regards to the need or the fact that we do indeed get feelings of comfort and all that warm stuff by seeing other people like us?
Why do I have to answer the empathetic question? I'm feelings. What's that? Yeah, so I have to realize that most people are not wired the way that I am. Most folks, I think, seeing someone that looks like them is of use. And I mean, it's the principle that you see in the breaking of the 4-minute mile.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happened, of course, is once the first person broke it, then a bunch of other folks broke it even within the same week. But prior to that, it was like for some reason no one was able to even touch it. And they thought that it was crazy talk to even consider such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose maybe the first black president, and then now we know that everyone can be president, or at least that black folks can be president now. So I suppose maybe I shouldn't totally poo-poo on the idea.
We will get you. Don't worry. That part is coming later. We'll get you to eat your words. But one could be clinical about the fact, okay, that even perhaps a Dr. Thunder, okay, and just hold what I'm about to say for a second. Let's not get into it, but you just said, okay, you just made the claim, hey, not everyone is wired the way I am. Some people need to see other people like them. For me, hey, I don't really need to see that. Okay, let me tell you something, that what you consider to be like you, okay, is a particular type. You have a Dr. Thunder crew, okay, and you do
I do
perhaps even need them depending on when you're trying to do Dr. Thunder crew type stuff, okay. But that's a separate conversation. But you may see what I'm saying there. Now, in other words, there are levels to everything, and you're particularly irritated with a low level type thing that most people tend to be doing. Okay, you're the elitist. You're the one that calls you. You always point out my whole hierarchy thing, but you're. See, I got you. But on the whole comfort thing, okay, that comfort and confidence, right? Which I said again, there are three things that we're getting, generally speaking, just to slice it up into at least three utilities from seeing other people like us. In other words, this group identity when it comes to endeavors such as your work, such as feeling like you belong, right? And that the first one is that comfort and confidence, right? And that just seeing someone that they consider to be like them, right? And it may just be something as simple as on the ethnic level, right? It feels more at home. And that even you, Dr. Thunder, even on that low level, you get what they mean, right? In other words, we'll just keep this dimension straight on the comfort side. It feels more comfortable. Oh, that guy, he's a black jazz guy like me. Oh, right. And so it's a little familiar. I get it. I know the idioms. I know the lingo. You get what I'm saying? So even on that level, on that basic, simple level of comfort, let me say my critical thing. I think that this is a cherry on top of nice icing, on top of some other flurries. It is no way the cake, right? This is not the cake. It's not fundamental. It's not basic. It's not a necessity to your success or in any way your efficiency in pulling off whatever this endeavor is. In this case, we're using a job example. Wallace went to work for LinkedIn and there was no other black guys there, right? if there's a black guy there, it is a cherry on top of the icing. It's not even the icing on the cake, okay? This is some cherry on top of it. It's just, hey, so now I can just say my silly little things that I say to the other black guys, right? I mean, so what do you have to say about, okay, this particular cherry? Do you acknowledge it? Because you've refused to acknowledge it so far. You say it doesn't even exist. But any thoughts vis-a-vis what I just said? I said, hey, it's there, but it's only a cherry at best.
Okay, so when you, I think when you get closer to this, okay, so when we're zoomed way out, I can see it's just irritating. Okay, but as we get closer, then maybe I have to acknowledge that I too need to see something that looks like me, but I just don't consider my race to be an essential aspect of me. So maybe I still want to see folks that are like me, but I'm looking for something else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
possibly
Yeah.
okay, so maybe you got me there.
All right. So let's since you bring up that dimension, let's just color it out. So, okay, because I don't think it complicates things too much. Because then we can go on to the next thing about the kind of protection that we feel. Okay, which might also be necessary by the time we get to the protection. Because this confidence and comfort part, this whole it feels like a familiar bowl of porridge part, this warm blanket part. We can acknowledge simply and also add your little complication here of there are different dimensions to your identity. Okay. There's your socioeconomic, demographic, right? And shall we say ethnic. Perhaps you don't care too much for those. Perhaps you care for things such as personality, perhaps things such as even IQ, okay? if you know, there's a personality type and an IQ type and a particular mode of operation type that you may say, you know what? Those are my type of people, and in any endeavor that I'm going to, some kind of gig I have, some kind of project I've been given, I would like to find my type there. In other words, you have these other dimensions that you're using because they're infinite dimensions into which one can divide and analyze things mathematically, anyways. But there's a certain number of useful ones. In this case, we're saying identity-wise, you have the socioeconomic, demographic, ethnic, but you also have things such as personality that have things to do with creativity, intuition, drive, and then intelligence, mode of operation, discipline, and you are in those other regions, finding your people there. Is that more or less what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's more or less what I'm saying. But the more you talk about it, the more I want to say maybe I'm stuck back at my initial position.
Mm-hmm. See? Okay, good. So on the fields, I think we got the fields. Let's go to the protection. What I mean by protection, okay? What I mean is this. I used an example the other day. Actually, it was yesterday on a stream that I was on, or that I did. On this very channel, ladies and gentlemen, on this very channel, I was talking about the fact that, hey, we all talk, perhaps in jest, or perhaps maybe some of you are serious out there about that buddy of yours that when it's time to bury a body, I'm calling you. In other words, there is a certain amount of we're in this and we're on code and we're going to give each other cover that is part of just what we may call the jungle. The jungle is generally civilized to a certain extent, but still we play jungle games, whether if it's in a boardroom or wherever, right? And there's a certain amount of, I painted an extreme in order to crystallize something in our mind. The extreme was the murder buddy, right? The guy who's ride or die, right? You guys are going to give each other air cover no matter what. So there is that practical aspect of, hey, the people whom are like me, again, even though we're sticking with the racial one, because that's what people tend to say when they say, hey, I want to see more people like me. They talk about, hey, I need more black women in the C-suite or something like that. So, but this aspect of the people whom are on code with you is a practical one, no? it does actually have effects, does it not? Any initial thoughts on the protection, air cover aspect of belonging to a group?
Yeah, I think it is it's good to belong to a group. One thing that one sort of aspect of protection is other people in the group. They may have more experience than you have, so you're not just totally ignorant of things that can be threatening. So that's a way that belonging to the group to a group can be beneficial. So in a matter of speaking, you don't have to do everything yourself. You don't have to think of everything yourself. You just have to be in a group where at least someone in the group has thought of the issue that you have
Yeah.
or the
And even
problem
if it's,
that you're facing.
yeah. And again, even if you're not even actively doing things together, the fact that you have a certain, in other words, let me get into this other example that I said the other day. Like when we talk about groups, let's further complicate it, okay? Because so far we're stuck with the simple layers. Because I think that no matter how abstract, because I'm gonna keep coming for you, Dr. Thunder. Because no matter how abstract the thing is, you do have a group thing, okay? You may say there's no one else exists that meets this group, but you do have a thing, okay?
Yeah.
So we've all been in the group of poorer and younger, right? Broker and younger college student in a hoopty. I talked about myself driving a Chevy Cavalier, a beat up one, in living in Fontana, Southern California, and not being able to afford maybe insurance. Therefore, your tags are off. Maybe you didn't go through that part, Dr. Thunder, because you're not a filthy immigrant like me. But us filthy immigrants, when you're 19 and driving a Chevy Cavalier and don't have the, in other words, when you're in that situation versus when you move into Orange County and you're driving a Cadillac CTSV, I had very different treatments with regards to the cops, right? I'm not saying I changed my behavior. I'm still the same dirty bastard I have always been, okay? But the point is, when I was in Group A, right, I was exposed to all kinds of scrutiny. They were on me. They were on me, Dr. Thunder. Pulling me over on the other thing and then checking this and what's going on there, what's in the glove compartment, sit on the curb, all that crap. But then in the other situation, it was not. So basically, there is a level of cover that comes, even if you're belonging in this abstract group of Cadillac driving behind a rich neighborhood versus the other. And we all do this social dance, ability of move, shape-shifting the morphine into these different categories, right? Putting on one shirt and putting another on. Okay, so that's how numerous the number of dimensions are in this game. But we do get active protection, and when if on the so now that I've muddied the water up a little bit like this now, okay, when you see, okay, actually, well, how do I take advantage of these kinds of group identities? How do I be like, okay, I want to be seen as this type of a person. I'm not that other type of person. It might even be competence, right? I want to be the person who has a reputation for competence. That way I get cover on certain other foibles I have, right? Something like that. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah. Restate the question.
There is no question, as usual. Of course, there is no question, Dr. Thunder. You know how this goes.
I lost it at the end. At the end of what you were saying.
No. 100%. That's my bad. I overdid my thing.
All I remember is what was the kind of car again?
Cadillac CTS. Chevy Cavalier was the hoopty.
Okay. Yeah. Now I remember what I was going to say. So, one thing it's interesting when folks have issues with the police, I will say that disproportionately, my issues with the police, getting pulled over seemingly for no reason, being, at a football game, a police officer being kind of rough with me. Um, there's, and there's a few other things. I remember one time I was going exactly the speed limit, and I think the nose of my vehicle barely went just in front of where the police officer was, and he pulled me over. Um, but all of those circumstances happened when I was younger, and I would also say when I had a sort of when I had a particular psychology with respect to policemen. When I got older,
F the police coming straight from the underground. No, go ahead.
when I got older, and maybe this was telegraphed by the unfortunate two simp vehicles I drove in a row, the minivans. It was hard. It was hard to not get those vehicles because I got such good deals, and I put so many miles on them for not very much money. We're really
And you're a
great
music,
music.
you're a music guy too, so it's like vans
That's right.
for
Yeah.
music people. Go ahead, yeah, all day.
Yeah. Well, I really wanted an SUV, but I didn't have SUV money, so minivan it was. And but the times driving those vehicles, or even when I drive now, um, I've had literally zero issues with police. Zero.
Branded
And
vehicles is another thing. Let me because I have a branded vehicle, right, with the company name on the side, and I have a regular
oh,
vehicle,
right,
right. A
right.
branded vehicle with a company name on the side puts you in a group. What's that group? This group is the people who are at work, and that group represents an order that you don't disturb. Again, I make certain postmodernist claims. One of my big postmodernist claims is that the order precedes morality. Um, and even if a theist were to challenge that, I'll say, well, God precedes morality. That's how I'll get them. So to say, but seriously though, that the order is the order. The morality is emergent from the order. The order is the important thing. What kind of order do you want? Morality is just the rules, bro. Morality is kind of like the mechanism, So people get stuck in that. They get stuck in the rules, the ethics, this and that. But it's like, what is the order, right? So I got in that whole little tangent there about order because I'm talking about you being in a particular order, which is the working man order, which is part of the societal order, okay, capitalist, whatever. Don't disturb those people. So I get away with a lot more, okay? Even when I did get pulled over once, driving from Northern California to Southern California. And anyone who has done that before, from San Francisco to LA, there's this straight, very, very straight, very long. It's like the straightest freaking stretch of 5 freeway, the Highway 5, right? And there's nothing to do but just hit the gas there. It's like there's like nothing to do but just like for just miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, just straight empty, right? So I was doing that, and I got pulled over, and the guy was way more. I could tell that he just was like, okay, you work, whatever. So again, whether it be being broker, having a certain mindset, and now being older, not so broke, perhaps not having to deal with being able to pay insurance or not, or whatever the hell the problem may be, working in a vehicle that is a work vehicle versus not. All these are group things under which we get protection, right? But if you take it back to the singular event, the work event, Wallace going to work, right? The thing is, if he finds certain things, I don't know, maybe it's, he's deep in the Brazilian network thing, and he finds another guy who is like a cultural Brazilian, whatever the network is, right? two Igbo guys, Nigerian Igbo guys, find each other at work and they're very from the same village, right? You see, they're gonna have certain secret handshake, pre-arranged contracts that they don't have to worry about, right? Regarding how they're gonna work together, right? So, Dr. Thunder, okay, how have you experienced this? Do you work this out in your, or even if you don't? Because for me, I'm not skilled at working people, right? But I don't ignore the fact that it is something that exists and it's a tool, it's a lever that's there that it moves the world, in fact, right? So in your case, how do you experience this kind of belonging to a group at work, getting cover from that group, maneuvering in that way? Either you do it or you see it. Any pointers? Any thoughts?
Yeah, this is in some ways this is difficult for me because so my day gig, I'm a tenured professor. I'm a director of a program at a major university, and in PWIs, those institutions, black men in particular, black folks in general, black men in particular, are sort of scarce. Somewhat of a unicorn, and so it can be if I only use I'm only going to sort of find folks and identify with them if they're black men. That's going to put me in a situation where,
it's not going to work for you.
It's not at all. It's going to make it very challenging.
What you're gonna say though is, it's going to be very useful to people because people find themselves in this particular position you're in, and because what I would now ask you is this, and perhaps it's what you're going to be about to say.
Right.
You do still find people to identify with and to bring into your corner somehow. In other words, the whole ethnic thing we said is one aspect, but you still have to find people that have some kind of secret handshake with you, because those are the people that you can most efficiently work with. Right? Because again, as I said, you have this pre-arranged contracts. Like you guys already kind of understand each other's modalities in terms of ethics, morality, modes of operation, and so on and so forth. So what do you do in that case then? Yes, you're saying, yes, this is interesting because you are tenured professor and you're out there in a situation where there are not a lot of black men. So what do you do?
And the other thing that happens is as you get older, and if you're doing a good job, then you get promoted, then there will be fewer and fewer folks that look like you. And so you must find another way to identify with folks. Now, fortunately, I'm also a musician, right? So that's my job is music related, but I'm a musician. And so in particular with jazz musicians, because of the sort of common tongue, we'll say the list of recordings in common that folks have all listened to, and I'm talking about the tradition, the history of this music. It is possible to not even have met someone, but to actually book a gig, meet them the first time on the gig, and to still actually be able to make music together. And so I think that's a great advantage, to not even have to have set up a relationship, but based on word of mouth, somebody else that you trust refers this person, you show up for the gig, and the person's going to be on time, they're going to do all of the professional stuff, but you're also going to be able to communicate at a pretty high level musically. Obviously, it's better to be playing with folks that you've known, that you've been with for a long time, of course. But having that as a sort of a default is a big plus. So even if there were no other faculty members in the area that I'm in that looked like me, which there happened to be. The language, the history, the tradition, the mutual love for the music, the tradition, that goes a long way. And so that makes it actually fairly easy to find folks that I can identify with.
100%. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget that we're talking about if you need to see people like you in positions of success in order to feel certain things and be able to do certain things. And we take things seriously. We say, number one, it is a phenomenon that we hear people say things like that they need to see people. So we should take people at their word, especially when you talk about the masses, the group of people. People whom are outliers or who wish they were outliers or fantasize that they're outliers always want to judge everybody else, especially the middle, as though they don't exist. Like, oh, everybody's always saying that stuff. Like, well, you're the only one who's not saying it. Well, maybe you should pay attention to what everyone is saying, because you have to live in this world. You have to get things done for your own self-interest. It turns out you got to pay attention to the sheep even. But it is beyond a sheepish endeavor. We have identified 3 layers. One we said was only a cherry on top of an icing on a cake, which is the comfort level. The whole, oh, it feels good to see that guy over there. It just feels good, right? No, nothing special. I'll still have gotten the job done anyways. No shit, no, all good. But it's just better, right? No big deal. Then we talk about this protection thing, and we have to kind of break and disaggregate the ways in which we can move from identity to identity, from one car to the next, from one neighborhood to the next, from one age group to the next, and then get the benefits, get the air cover, get the, shall we say, being able to get away with things, right? Because my whole story of moving out of the hood and out of the beat up car into a nicer car in a nice neighborhood was that I was just now left alone to do whatever the hell I was doing. I didn't change what I was doing. I wasn't all of a sudden became an angel. No, they just left me alone now. Okay. So there are many ways in which you could do this. And one thing that you just mentioned there, and then we'll go to the other part, and then we'll talk about how we can actually maneuver these levers, if you will. But what you talked about there about the love of the work, which also has to do with a certain high-level connoisseur, shall we say, excellence, thriving for excellence, right? When you're going for that in any endeavor, okay, you're going to find your people. It is a way of finding your vocation, if you will. And it's something that Richard Feynman, famous physicist, said. He said that, you know, like, because the interviewer was asking Richard Feynman, hey, do you find that you can only like talk with physicists or only like smart people? And then he thought for a second. He was like, he said, maybe you're right. But then he was like, no, stop. You know what? I can talk to anyone who is not a dilettante in whatever they're doing. I don't care what they're doing. It could be weightlifting. It could be bartending. It could be making this one particular kind of cloth or whatever. If this person is pushing the envelope and just he's learning about all that kind of stuff, he knows about the history of that cloth and the way to manufacture it, and then I feel at home with that person. It doesn't have to be physics, right? So what you're saying there is a key aspect of, you want to find your tribe, find your group, because somebody mentioned in the chat as well saying, hey, I find it surprising how I'm only one of a few, or even the only one, in this case, perhaps a black person, right? In certain places. And the thing is, well, you found your crew. Well, congratulations, right? Those are your people, right? These are the people whom are after the same things that you're after. Skin color has nothing to do with this. You're the one bringing the bias in, trying to find black faces in these places. But anyways, the third aspect that we wanted to kind of touch on, and let me drop the link just in case, just so anyone can join in to chime in on the topic.
You were talking about weightlifting.
Let me see. You out there flexing?
Yeah, you were talking about weightlifting. It's fortunate.
So yeah, it was it was my fault. You had to show that, right?
Yeah, I had to show that. Well, I mean, because look, I mean, just check it out one more time here. Look, the guy doesn't look like me. The guy that's spotting me doesn't look like me. See? but he's still definitely
There you
still
go.
definitely
Quite
part of the
relevant.
team.
Quite relevant to the topic too.
Yeah.
But you guys are there on the way. So that thing, when you said it, yeah, I recognize a through line there. You're always finding your people. Okay, is I have an issue. Okay, I always think that I'm probably the most kind of lacking of the need of people person in the world. I'm sure Dr. Thunder will want to give me a run for for my money there on that one. But I pay attention to just about everything, every phenomenon out there. So, and I know that people operate on this thing, okay, on this group level. And no matter how abstract in this particular case, where I'm saying, hey, even you, right, Dr. Thunder, are finding your people because you can't help but do that, and we want to see our people, even if it's only it's only one person, and you were surprised to find I only saw one man ever in my life who lived up to my expectations. We had one drink one night together in this one bar passing by in Tokyo, whatever it may be. But we got that thing, and our life is richer, fuller for it. Plus, also there's that whole protection stuff. If you want to take over the world, it's best to find someone else who is trying to take over the world too, not just a crazy person. But anyways, let's go to the other one. Okay, reputation. Okay, ethnic reputation. Now this is one that might hold you back, right? Do you believe in the reputation being something that informs the initial stereotype that people have of you? Because over here we understand that stereotypes are necessary. These initial categories are necessary. Low resolution type of frames are necessary. You can't just go around the world with a big database in your head and a big calculator calculating every possibility. No, not initially. Okay. You just want to know, okay, what aisle does this person belong to? Right? Oh, he's toothpaste aisle guy. Those are what stereotypes are. It's like, I don't know if he's good or not, if he's a crappy toothpaste, cheap toothpaste, but he's on the toothpaste aisle. So this kind of sorting of people and having a particular reputation, in this case, I think the ethnic one will be the most salient, right? How has that affected you, or any ways in which you've maneuvered to help overcome any of the, shall we say, prejudices and so on and so forth in that regard?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I have
I think you're muted.
I'm muted?
Yes. Or am I the one?
Check. Can you hear me?
Hold on once.
Check,
I
check.
think no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I'm not muted. Okay. So what was I lost my train of thought now. What were we saying?
Basically the ethnic reputation type stuff, right?
Okay. Now I remember. So one thing. Okay, so first of all, this is to sort of bolster your point about the need for some sort of stereotyping. It's a protection, it's a survival tactic. Case in point, say if I'm in a dark alley, and a figure has a hoodie on, right at the end of the alley, rather large person, and they start moving in my direction. Now, only an idiot is going to be like, well, you know what? I don't want to pass judgment on them. I don't want, I'm not a racist. I'm not a X, Y, and Z, Oh, and I can tell that it's a black person too. So I really need to make sure that, I'm not exhibiting some sort of bias here. Obviously, it's totally ridiculous. Of course, you get out of the alley, you go the other direction, you get away from there, and then if you were wrong, you can apologize later when you're still alive. Okay, but I'm lost again.
all good. Ethnic reputation may have affected you or not.
But say the end of what you were saying again, because I had a good point I wanted to make.
Okay. Basically, I was saying that wrapping up with that you always find your team, but there is the
Right.
last part, which is reputation, and on
Okay.
the ethnic side, we may benefit from a good reputation or a bad reputation. Stereotypes are necessary. We have them. Um, and then we'll get into later how you can why it is the case that there are these myths about people who drive Cadillacs in a particular. In other words, we're going to talk about order. In other words,
Right.
just in time for Wallace to
Okay.
come in. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So the reputation thing is interesting. So one issue that I've had is because I'm an introvert, and because I'm about business, sometimes that can come across as is some sort of I don't know, stuck up, conceited, whatever pejorative, whatever kind of thing that people say. Um, and then on top of that, I'm a pretty big person,
And just so we're
and
clear, you
so
are stuck up and conceited. That
yeah, right,
notwithstanding,
right.
but that's a different issue.
uh, and I'm a pretty big person, so I think that sort of exacerbates, or so whatever maybe natural fear someone would have maybe is, you know, I don't know, is multiplied or something. Um, and then I'm totally not what a person that my size with, the way I look would tend to be. The kinds of stuff that I'm into, um, uh, the kind of conversations that I want to have, the kind of job that I have. I tell people I was at uh, where was I at? I was at a drugstore or something. I don't know, picking up some medication or picking up some Gatorade or something. And the attendant said to me, the person checking me out, it says, "What do you what do you do? Like, what do you do for a living?" I had like a saxophone shirt on or something. They said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a musician." And they were like, "What? You're a musician?" It's like, I thought you were like a football player or something. And I've gotten the "Are you the bouncer?" comments, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's interesting how the way you look will impact the way that folks will interact with you, and even will seek to set up certain kinds of um, opinions that they'll spread about you. They'll start telling other people, stuff about you, and it's like, but we haven't had a conversation yet. You don't even know who I am yet.
100%. And this is one of those things where I'll call up that whole caution again about people who like to think and they think and they're rational. They try to be rational because if they're smart, they know they're not rational as well. Um, but then when they look outside in the world and they see that thing that you just described about somebody just taking something irrational and then spreading news about you and so on and so forth about it, right? And next thing you know, you're crucified, right?
Right.
Some people like to say, "Oh, but it doesn't make any sense." It's like it doesn't matter if it doesn't make any sense, and we're not asking you to change them, right? The point is, this is a thing that happens. It's almost like saying,
Right.
when you put acid and base together, there's this reaction that happens, and you're saying, "Why should it happen?" It's like, bro, it is a law of nature that people, writ large, when they're doing that FE extroverted feeling thing again, they they operate as massive waves with very low resolution. All their fine
Mm.
resolution goes away, right? That's basically how it works, right? If you want to think about it in the physical analogy, is that big waves don't have good resolution, right? Smaller
Right.
waves have better resolution, tiny waves. So, and when you have these big group operations, low resolution thinking, very low resolution stereotypes, and they spread and we call these things delusions and so on and so forth. People call into Kevin Samuel show, people call into all kinds of shows, all kinds of people, and you hear what they say, right? And you hear defensiveness and their lack of accountability and the kinds of dances that people do, these are your neighbors. As a matter of fact, these are not the bums. These are your successful neighbors. Okay. These are the ones, that have, they go on trips with their family. These are them. Okay. And then you have the people whom are just insane and crazy and that you grew up with. They're all too also have grown up to be adults and are right there on driving the freeway with you too. And spreading rumors about you too and doing crazy things as well. So understanding the fabric with which people are made, especially the mass, the group, and how it works, again, with regards to ethnic reputation and reputations of all kinds, is part of what we're talking about. And Wallace is in the chat. What you got for us, sir?
Well, good night, everyone. Here it's almost midnight. If I could ask you, I would like to say something that basically my intuition is telling me to say that I'm thankful both to Ike and both to Dr. Thunder because as a young guy, it's not easy to see like channels like you both have that share real knowledge. I'm not talking about bullshit. I'm not talking about the cloth because basically, all we can basically see out there as a young guy is the Pookies and Ray Rays. And basically, since I met Ike, I have been able to, let's say, succeed in life, through a multitude of ways. So,
Are you
uh,
making Coach Greg Adam jokes? You
yes,
see what
but
this
this
guy
time
is
it's
doing?
serious. Yes, no, but serious. I'm not trolling. I'm not trolling. It's
Let's
for real.
succeed. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's the will to succeed. But for real, I'm thankful for you both because it's real. Since I have met Ike and I have been able to learn a lot from him, I have evolved a lot. And as a young guy, I think this is something good that you can see someone that, let's say, have the life that someday you, let's say, want to have, and then you can not only see but maybe stay in touch, because I reply to the comments on the YouTube section. It's not like Kevin Samuels that's already too big that you can see him, but you cannot talk to him. It's something that you can reach. And this makes the difference because it's basically something really hard, even for me as a Brazilian, because let's say the way, the white class, if I can say that way here, they are really already paired. When you are not like them in the ethnicity part, they they will play with you. They will go to the same party as you, but in the end, they will not team up with you. So being able to see channels like Ike channel, Dr. Thunder channel, has been a wonderful experience regarding wisdom, regarding knowledge. So I'm thankful for you both for being here, sharing the word, sharing some wisdom, some knowledge, taking your time. And no, Coach Greg Adams intended. I can help me to succeed in a multitude of ways. Thank you.
All right, Wallace. All right. Well, thank you. I'll get out of here.
Yeah,
Um,
you're welcome, Wallace. You're welcome, Wallace. Thank you. Thanks for watching.
no, yeah, that was a good one. You mentioned something there, okay? You mentioned something there about seeing others as well in the media, let's say the media, right? To help you, to help motivate people. Now, Wallace just give just an example, okay? In other words, not only is it the case that there's the majority of people, personality wise, have this need, that comfort that I call the cherry on top is more than a cherry for them. Let's be honest, right? Remember, we said CPR. That's the three things that we get. Generally speaking, we're going to slice it up into these three dimensions. We get comfort. We get also protection, some kind of code, some kind of this guy, they got my back, I got their back, some kind of protection, right? And also we get an ethnic reputation that we can benefit from, a kind of pre-branded, or that we have to protect ourselves against, if it's a bad reputation, that kind of a thing. So, being able to see others that are out there doing a certain kind of thing might be something that even someone like Wallace, who's an intelligent person, but he's more of a feeler, came over here talking about all his feelings and shit, messed up the whole studio. No. And to anyone watching, Wallace is cool. We're cool. I'm not a cruel human being, but he did come in here with his feelings all over the place. So this shows us that me and Dr. Thunder, right? That this thing that we say, no, this is how people are, right? Dr. Thunder. We said we were gonna wear you down today. So what do you have to say? Wallace, he's a smart guy, but he's out here talking about seeing you and you're an inspiration.
So the funny thing about this, and I recognize this about myself, is for some reason, often is the case that I feel driven or compelled to provide for others something that I either don't need or in a way that wasn't the way that I would have received it. And maybe that's because at some point I realized that I was the weirdo,
Mm-hmm.
and that in order to be successful as a teacher, successful as a leader, that I had to develop. I had to develop in some ways that I don't know. I mean, one of the ways is the whole sort of scheduling stuff and that whole discipline thing. That's not a. I'm more of an intuitive person, but I realize that I mean, there is a practical application of knowing how to use a calendar, and you're going to get to a critical mass of the amount of stuff that you can retain just in your head. So that is true, but to the extent that I use it, I think aspects of that are about folks that are around me, and perhaps instilling a certain kind of confidence in my leadership because they have an idea of where I'm going. So
Mm.
yeah. So it's interesting, and I have seen over and over, like for instance, CGA. I mean, Succeed, monkey double backflips.
Nope.
Let's see here. Okay, all right, we did those. So with CGA, we frequently hear CGA say, how appreciative he is that people are listening to him, and it means a lot to him, the stuff that people say. But he's a super introvert too. Like he's like us, right? He's very introverted, and he's constantly like he's roasting cats for needing basically for needing people to hold their hand and stuff, because he's trying to get people to grow up, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting that though it's like we don't want to say or think that we need whatever it is, but then
Mm-hmm.
on the other side it's nice to receive that. It is a and then it can even turn into a motivation. You're trying to do things because you see a dearth of material in a certain area, and you know that people are in need of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have that, right? We're generating new content, so we're generating stuff that we didn't have. Even like when I think about when I was in college, music school, and all of the like sort of real life skills that I didn't learn in college that I'm trying to teach my students in college, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't get that. I figured it out myself. Why do they need it?
Well, so
I could take that approach.
something you're mentioning here, and shout out to Dio Trice. Okay, $5, much appreciated. Round of applause to you, and to the rest of you. Follow the example. Go ahead. $2, $1, $5, $2, $10, $1,000. Hey, look at that. Another one just came in. Let's keep the money rolling. Let's keep the money rolling. Okay. Let's
Here,
keep the money.
I think I might have something. I think I got something for this one.
Yeah, get the money coming in. That's a good
Yeah,
one. I
there we
see the
go.
dollars
There we go.
falling. I see the dollars falling from the sky. Says I
I
should
mean,
have come to check
could
you
you
out.
hear that?
Oh,
Could you hear it?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Because I had
Yeah.
it kind of turned down.
And says Dio Trice should have come to check you out months ago, sir. Excellent content. Started from your first video. You're now part my barbershop tip jar, sir. Thank you very much. Now, what you said, something you said, touches on some topic which is has always interested me, which is this. You know, the shaman, the weirdo that's out there, not really doing what the other people are doing, but for some reason, other people go to them to go tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Are you seeing the lines I'm drawing here? That's how it tends to work, okay? The loner is usually the person, the one that figures it out for themselves is usually the best teacher, right? People that go through it and so on and so forth, right? And you're just seeing part of that phenomenon, I believe. Now, shout out to Game Changer in the building. He's another person that, okay, so shout out to Game Changer, psychoanalyzing from afar, not psychoanalyzing, just kind of assuming certain personality types. So Game Changer has an ability. He has a lot of facility with that FE, extroverted feeling thing, in terms of group dynamics. I heard him say earlier today, kind of creating a state of stasis with the group. You know, going in there and being a part of the environment, if you will, right? He has facility for that, and that's part of his operation. So goes my hypothesis regarding my observation of him. So this is, but Game Changer, you know, you see, a certain kind of cerebral, intelligent engineer type too. But it'll be interesting to see how he sees the whole fact that he's out there probably working with a bunch of Asians and stuff. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about whether or not you need to see others like you in positions of success. What shape does that take? What are the modalities? This thing is not very simple. At least on the very surface level, there's that cherry on top, which is called comfort. But also, we get the, shall we say, protection. We get the code. We get air cover, or, air cover, right? That fire, suppressive fire. People are running interference for us because they're part of some team where we have some pre-designed goal, some particular cause that we're after, right? So, but also there is the reputation aspect. And we've seen many different ways. We talked about being in a hoopty, living in a particular neighborhood versus living in another neighborhood, and how all of a sudden you have more freedom, you have less scrutiny going from one group to the other, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now let's continue with the super chats before we you got a sound effect for us, sir, on this one?
Sure. Let's go ahead and do this one again.
Indeed. Black Heights, advancing your career. $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Brother Ike, I'm donating some pocket change because nice. Oh, I'm
because you are super rich. I'm just reading the
No.
rest of it because he laughed through it.
we need every dollar out here. And we have MX. This seems like a cryptocurrency, but the color of the super chat looks like this is like on the $100 level.
It's $49.21.
Oh, you that's the 50.
Big money.
Nice. Thank you very much. United Fitness from the dude on the bike. Yes, the dude that sits on
That's right.
the dude on the bike. Good
Those
stuff.
are some,
you see?
man, those are some great videos. If you guys have not checked out Ike's earlier videos where he's getting on his bike and he's riding, you're missing something.
Indeed.
Really great content.
And this guy is the guy that gets on the treadmill bike and gets on the streams. I've seen him a couple of places before. So shout out to you, sir.
I'm confusing something.
Mm.
He's the dude on the bike. He's not
He is
talking
the dude
about
on the
your
bike. It
videos
also
on the bike.
coincides with what you said too. Yeah, 100%.
All right.
I am also the dude on the bike.
Right. Two dudes on the bike.
Two dudes on the bike. So goes the story. Speaking of stories, speaking of reputations and good branding he has there, because I recognize him. He's the branding, if I recall Hotep Jesus saying, is really about uniqueness and consistency, right? So you got to consistently be that guy on the bike. You're uniquely the guy on the bike, and you're consistent with the guy on the bike, and now it's your brand, and it does what brands do for you, which is recognition, this, that, and the other, traction, attention, blah, blah, blah. So speaking of that, there is a whole kind of way that we're going to move now into how one can play this game. I don't know how we're doing on time, but I suspect we're probably going long.
We got about 30 minutes.
Okay, good. So we got an hour with 30 minutes. Okay, good. Because we've talked about, generally speaking, what the landscape is. Okay, what the landscape regarding how people feel when they see other people like them, the kinds of air cover they can get, the kinds of, shall we say, and also in the group reputation. If you're part of a group that has a reputation for hey, let's don't mess with them, right? Almost similar to the group of, if you're in the branded car, the cops don't mess with you. But if because you're in the punchback group and you get yourself somehow in the punchback group and nobody messes with you, that's also a nice thing. You found a way of doing that by getting big, as you said. You joined what group? You joined the big guy group, the guy with guns group, and people don't mess with you, right? So these dances
you want me to show the people how I did that?
Oh, you wanna flex on us again with your little lifting?
Yeah. Those are 120s. 17 reps.
All right.
Almost. Okay, I couldn't get to 18.
So you're demonstrating right there, you going and maintaining your standing in a particular group. Let's talk about the myths behind these groups. What do I mean by the myths as we continue this conversation? Because the myths are what make it such that there's such a thing as a reputation. What's a reputation? Your reputation is a story, right? A story that ascribes some kind of attributes and identity to this identity group, right? And it's a myth because that's what we call these things, right? That's what we call these kinds of fundamental stories, right? But as we continue, I think I see another super chat here. If I am not mistaken, it is a sticker, a super sticker. We got my brother Dele, the Yoruba man in the house with his $50. Thank you very much. Dele Oshikoya in the building. Dele Oshikoya in the building. Yes. Dr. Thunder putting in the work to get in the group that he needs to be into in order to get the protections, the cover fire, and the, shall we say, freedom from being messed with that affords him. Now, let's talk about how we use these things, going from one group to the other, right? How many times have you had to find yourself, shifting, needing to make decisions? I think I've heard you say before that part of you getting yoked up was because you didn't want people to mess with you. Okay. So that was an active situation there. Are there any other times when you thought, you know what? I don't want to be part of this anymore. I think I want to be seen as part of that. And how do you maneuver? Because it's about getting ish done, right? We've seen the ways in which this plays out. We've looked at the landscape. We've kind of gave some definition to that, to the social landscape. Now, with regards to you moving from one group to another for sake of leverage, how have you done that in your life? And pick and share anyone or any thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'm maybe a little unusual in that, well, okay, so everybody belongs belongs to more than just one group.
Yep.
Okay, so nobody is just in just one group. Everybody has some different groups. The
Let me just
groups
add,
that I'm
it's big, 100% a utility thing too. Like if you have a group that you are part of just for when you go to Vegas and you try to get the best hotels, that's what that group is for. That's what that network is for. You're like, hey, I'm going to Vegas again, and you're like, oh, blah, blah, that's your Vegas buddy group, and there are many groups like that. Yeah, sure, go 100%. Go ahead.
So yeah, so everyone has that. But in my case, many of the groups that I'm in are visible groups. They're sort of visible groups. So, for instance, I'm part of this community. That's a visible group. A professor. That's a visible group. I'm a musician, right? That's another sort of visible group. I'm in the gym all the time. And so that's not as visible, but because of the other networks that I'm in, it's become more visible, right? And so elevating in each one of those sort of hierarchies, because I know you like hierarchies, elevating myself in each one of those, you have to sort of figure out how each one of them works and what the value system is. And once you figure that out, you can just consistently work on that. In academia, it was about getting credentials, establishing a certain reputation, the quality of my work. Documentation is very important. In let's say in Black YouTube manosphere, a lot of it has to do with being consistent. Yet a lot of it has to do with who you know. It's about collaborating, being collaborative, offering ideas, not just being sort of stingy. But the thing is that I have so many ideas that it doesn't hurt me to share my ideas or to contact O'Shea or Ike or whoever it is and say, hey man, I have this idea for a show, or I have this idea for a panel discussion. For instance, this Friday, there's going to be a panel discussion on Bernard Riley's channel. And it's going to be my panel that I put together, but I contacted him and say, hey man, I think we could do this kind of show. And so we're going to do that show. Now I could be like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell him or share that with him. I'm just going to do it on my own channel. But that doesn't really help anybody because his platform is bigger than my platform. That's a factor. But another factor is that I just don't have the time to run all of this stuff. It's better to share it and to actually be able to do more stuff.
Okay, so you're basically like on that diversification path. Basically, a group is a tool, tools and investments, and they have compounding investments as well, relationships and so on and so forth that you built in the past, blah, 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 compounding investments. So you're diversifying in that regard. Now, there is and shout out to the guy on the bike. But before, let's look at the super chat real quick. And I wanted to clarify the zero, that when I say myth, I mean myth in a philosophical sense, not it's a lie sense. What I mean is a myth is something that is that represents an order. A myth is an abstract story. It's not about any particular person. The myth of the order of, in other words, we're always trying to protect a particular order for people that are like us, right? Our tribe. It starts with blood. It starts with that. It starts there with you and your brother. And the fact that it's you and your brother against your cousin, you and your brother and your cousin against the neighbors, you and your brother and your cousins and your neighbors against the next town, that kind of a thing, right? This is how it generates. Now, whichever order is there, there's a myth about it. There is the order is the myth, and the myth is the order. In terms of the story side of the order is the myth. It says these types of people are to be protected because of X, Y, and Z. For example, there is a myth of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is an imagination from this imagined state of nature by Hobbes and Locke, which is the founding myth of our situation, right? So it's not a lie, but it's a founding mythology. It says, let's go back and ask ourselves, do we want to get killed? Do we want to get imprisoned? Okay, so let's agree as this to be our fundamental nature and say, call it life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. If Genghis Khan came through and instituted another kind of order, because power is what fundamentally is what institutes order, and kills everybody and then writes his own history and institutes his own order, it'll also be based on a myth, a story, right? There will be something about the proud people from the steppes of Eurasia and how they're superior and how they learn how to ride the bikes and the horses, and how they're good archers and all that kind of stuff. That'll be that kind of order, perhaps a more stoic order, because they are nomads after all. But if it makes sense, can I get a one in the chat from the super chatter? And thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the super chat. So the guy on the bike, what you got for us, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Hey, I just couldn't send a super chat and not get on the bike. So you said have to be consistent. So I'm like, I got to put my clothes back on. I just did a broadcast for about a half an hour and I went pretty hard, but I wanted to get on with you. I've been watching you for a very long time, and I just wanted to get on and just chime in.
Got it. So what do you, when it comes to let's take it back to the beginning part, because we've just kind of identified, okay, certain aspects of the whole, I need to see other people that are like me, okay, this whole group identity thing, okay. We identified a few of them. We talked about comfort, right? And first of all, are you somebody who likes to see other people around? And is that comfort part, okay, just pure comfort part, familiarity part? Is that part that's important to you, more or less, or how do you feel about that one?
I want to see people for comfort, definitely comfort. You know, when something happens, you know, you want to be able to lock eyes with that individual, like me and you know what we're talking about, right? So It's comfort, definitely. I don't want to be I would never want to be the token. Yes, comfort for sure.
Mm-hmm. Have you found yourself in a situation where you are the token?
Yes. I was just thinking about one very vividly, and I did not enjoy it. So I was like, man, I'm the only one, huh? Okay. Oh man, not a comfortable feeling.
I see. Okay, so now, let's say there were black. There were others. The others. Is that the name of the show? That was like a horror movie. The others. Let's say there were others there, and you had that feeling of comfort. Okay. How would the environment been different? Okay, because conversely, what I'm asking you is, I'm not asking you directly what the discomfort feels like. Okay, and what may have happened. But let's talk about, let's say if there were others there, how would the vibes been different? How do you think, any actions have changed? How would you feel? More relaxed, perhaps? Would what you have said changed? How you acted changed, or no?
I think just to deflate the situation. I think we do a good job. Like, all right, he may be struggling. Let me go ahead and throw him a bone. I mean, if you're around that type of group, I've been around this type of group that they would throw you to the wolves. Like, you know, they would, in a meeting, like in a huddle meeting. I used to work in a hospital, and then, you know, right in the middle, I was the director of security at the hospital. They'd be like, Roger, you know, something happened on the 5th floor, right in the middle of the friggin' meeting. And I'm like, God damn, where's the? I'm the representative, you know. So, and being that I was a contractor, you know, you got to eat crow. So, very terrible situation.
I see. So, something you mentioned that kind of brought something to mind, and then I'm going to ask Wallace and Dr. Thunder a question, I believe. The whole thing of having to eat crow, having to take one for the team, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, right? Because if you're getting some kind, we have not talked about payment somehow. What's the price of admission into these teams? What do you have to take? You know, if you're going to be part of a gang in prison, you know, you're gonna need to be able. You're jumping in. If something's going down, you're jumping in, right?
Right.
All that kind of stuff. That's the price that you pay. So Yeah, the contractor thing that you mentioned just brought another particular vivid story to mind where, so basically this is the picture, right? You're a contractor, right? You have a client, right?
Right.
The client also has a, shall we say, a boss. Let's say you're building something. You have a general contractor, right? He hires a subcontractor, and then the subcontractor hires you for a service. So it's your job to make the subcontractor look good in front of the general contractor, right? So you're in this meeting together, right? And this guy's paying you. And it's like, hey, you know what, Ike, why didn't you tell us? And you're like, dude, you know that I sent that email months ago and you didn't, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so Dr. Thunder, okay? And then Wallace, will see if you have anything to add to this. What do you have to say about, the sacrifices that we have to make for these groups, to keep things going? For example, you talked about, sharing, right? Perhaps you may pick up the thread from there. You already talked about sharing before. And, the price of admission for the protection that you get as being part of these groups.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, part of the sharing thing is you're still trying to prove what your value is to whatever the group is. So there's a reason why the low man on the totem pole, is doing a lot more work, is running around and it's like this and whatever. I recently rewatched The Sopranos, and there's a reason why the guys that are lower down, that don't have as much time in, the guys that are not made men yet, there's a reason why they're running around doing all kind of crazy stuff when the other folks are kind of, it seems like they're coasting. They're still doing stuff, but it seems like they're coasting more. It's because you have to prove your value to whatever the group is. You have to prove your value. So part of the way that I prove my value is I offer ideas. And it's not like everything that every idea that I've had, people have ran with. I mean, so you might have to offer a bunch of ideas, and a low percentage of them pan out. And then a higher percentage will start to pan out as you've been around for longer and longer. When I started in academia, we'll say in the current position that I'm in, been there since 2004. And I have literally a file that has dozens and dozens and dozens of really good ideas that are thoroughly worked out, proposals and things. And I would submit those proposals and they would be rejected over and over. Now that I direct the area that I'm in, those same old ideas that I had, which were maybe in some cases were ahead of their time, I'm acting on them now. So sometimes you can be sort of rehearsing for
you were never wrong, Dr. Thunder. All the ideas were good.
right. So yeah, I mean, so I think the sharing information, I think, is a good thing. And I'll say this too, and I say this to my students frequently. You have different kinds of folks, you have different kinds of teachers, different kind of leaders. Some folks are like really stingy with information. They have sort of decided that there is a basket of stuff that they're going to share, and then they're going to have their secret stuff, their secrets, sauce. That's going to be the stuff that they don't share with anybody, right? Because that's the stuff that's going to make them different than everyone else. And in my experience, there's no need to hide that stuff, that information, because it is not the ideas themselves that really ends up being worth anything. It's the legs. It's the legs on the idea, right? It's the actually following it through. It's all of the work the effort, and that's the stuff that a very small percentage of people are actually going to do. So you can just share all kind of gold and all kind of crazy great information. Most people aren't going to do anything. They're just going to sit on their butt. So it's fine.
We got Blind Guy, his wife, their life. We got Corey. I called you Curry the other day. Like, I guess I was like jonesing
Like
for
the
some
food.
naan bread or something.
Right.
Laquita Marie and Corey. What you got for us vis-a-vis the topic, what we've been talking about, needing to see other people that are like you, and perhaps the reputation that you have to be stuck with initially, and how you deal with that. Do you care about the feeling side? Do you care about the protection side that you get from the crew? Are you a worker of people, or do you kind of leave it alone, right? Because some people are more active in their seeking cover fire and docking and weaving and so on and so forth. But anyways, what you guys got for us?
Yeah, thank you for having us on, Big Ike. I appreciate it. And Dr. Thunder, hello, how are you? And to all
We got Wallace and United Fitness as
Wallace
well.
and United Fitness, hello to you as well. Just going by, what I was hearing here, especially with Dr. Thunder was just saying, it is important that when you're trying to get into a group dynamic, that you want to see people around you that's like you and that's being successful, because it gives you an idea of what you can shoot for. But then at the same time, on the end of sharing, I've been on kind of both ends. I've kind of been on the raw end of that stick, because
Wait, the raw end of what stick?
the stick about sharing the ideas and information, because there have been times where I have just shared ideas with people, and in the job that I'm in now, I gave a bunch of ideas, and the person told me, no, this is not going to work. This is not going to work for budgetary reasons. But then we get into a staff meeting, and the director says, and so just came up with all these wonderful ideas that we're going to have to make happen. And it was every single one of my ideas with just a different title on it. Just so happened that I was bold enough to, after the meeting was over, go over there and tell the person that, hey, these are my ideas. And the lady, she didn't get fired because of that. She left because she was just leaving the job. But I went and reclaimed my ideas. And so I do get it when people kind of hold back and have that secret sauce. And, that's I understand it's not everybody's experience, but people hold back and have that secret sauce, like Dr. Thunder said. But it is important that you do get in there and you at least contribute some information. And there might be some things that you say, okay, I'm gonna hold this for a certain occasion or a certain time. But at the same time, you gotta be willing to share the ideas, because like Dr. Thunder said, it's not even the idea that actually gets that's the value. It's the actual execution of the idea. And so I guess it is important. So it definitely is important to share information. And again, like I said, it is always good to see people in the room, in the group dynamics that have been successful, that look like you, because it gives you something to shoot for. Otherwise, you go in the room, you see people that are successful, they don't look like you, then you might be a little gun shy to do the other thing, which is to share the information, because you just don't know where it's gonna go. And that's just my take, So yeah, I'll wrap it up right there.
This reminds me of The Office, an episode of The Office where Michael Scott, he thinks of this golden ticket idea. He comes in and he's dressed up like Willy Wonka. He's doing flips and stuff. He's got the hat on and everything. He's clicking his heels together, and this is the golden ticket idea, and he's got an accent and everything. So then what happens is, so they were to put these golden tickets in reams of paper, like boxes of paper, and then whatever company, whoever it was that got the golden ticket, they would get like 10% off or whatever of their cost. And so what happened was, he put all of the tickets in a collection of boxes. It seemed like they were far enough apart, but they were all going to the same company, and it was their biggest client. So they were going to have to eat 30% of their biggest client. So then he's trying to convince Dwight to take credit for the idea rather than him. All of a sudden, he distances himself. He takes the clothes off. He puts them out in a dumpster. He comes back in the office and he just has like some sweats on or something. And so he's trying to distance himself because now the higher ups know they know that they're going to be out in 30%. So then the twist is that the company was so happy that they were getting 30% off that they decided that they were going to buy all of their office products now from Dunder Mifflin. So then this was a huge win. So then now he tries to flip the other direction and act like it's his idea again.
Take it back.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
Interesting.
It's crazy that it's like that too, because like I said, the minute that something is a good idea, everybody wants to take claim for it. And like I said, I've experienced that in a number of different times. But I will say this: and when I've been in the group dynamics where the people, like I said, look like me, I felt less inclined that was going to be a problem than I did in other arenas where the room was chock full of people that didn't look like me. That I've experienced that more there. And so I hope I'm answering your question. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a slippery slope sometimes when it comes to sharing ideas, because you don't know when you're gonna have that golden ticket idea that's gonna actually pop off and work, and then where it's gonna go from there. Because
I think it also kind of adds to it is when the people don't look like you don't know the culture. Like the people that do look like you, you're familiar with how they operate, or at least you think you are more familiar with how they operate. And so that's really a big part of it. I know that's what has been happening in your case, in my case, at work or in social groups. Yeah, definitely. That's part of it. You kind of know something about how they move, the way they make decisions, the way they plan. Are there code words being used? Are there not? Yeah.
And I'll give you I'm not trying to make this the Corey show, but I'm going to share another example. I'm going to give a concrete example. In my position that I work in my job, I'm going to try to keep it general in case somebody's watching. But
they're always watching.
In my position, I was able to, with some assistance from a personal connection, I was able to bring one of the actors or actresses from the Black Panther movie to present at my job. And the line to come in that day was wrapped, outside the building, going down the block. So when they had the follow-up meeting with the city manager and talking about everything that was good, they were like, "Oh, and the day that we opened the exhibit for Thomas the Tank Engine, we had such wonderful feedback because of that exhibit opening." There was not one Thomas the Tank Engine shirt in the line. Everybody that was in the line was wearing something related to Marvel Comics or Black Panther because this person was there. And I'm sitting there like, oh, no, that's a lie. Oh. But of course, I played it cool. And then I went and talked to some people afterwards and let them know, like, hey, I asked a question. I asked an intelligent question. I was basically like, how many people came to the event that day, and they gave the numbers. And I said, okay, well, this is the amount of people we saw during the autograph session, during the photo op session. This is the amount of people. So that percentage of people was well over the 50% mark, well over the 50% mark.
75%.
75, 80% mark for attendance that they were there for that. And so my director turned a little red in the face and got a little upset because I did that. But nevertheless, I had to claim my idea back, and because otherwise it was just being like pissed on, for lack of a better word. So that's, again, idea sharing to me. Like I said, I'll do it, but like I said, I do tend to keep some secret sauce in my basket, though.
I think you have to proceed with wisdom. It depends on the situation. I certainly do not share ideas without there being so I'll share ideas to people that I trust. I will share ideas, and I don't need credit for the ideas. It doesn't bother me as long as I'm incorporated into whatever the idea is, because that's really what I want. I want the opportunity to work, to do whatever that project is, and then I'll get my benefit from that. But in every other scenario, there's always like some kind of paper trail. I'll have like documentation of whatever the idea was, and I'll have, I emailed it to whoever, and there's somebody's copied on it. It's always that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I want to add to that. I mean, I think it was all, I would say sharing ideas. I mean, the effort it takes to execute an idea, very few and people far in between are going to do it. So when it comes to ideas, I always say I don't share ideas with people that I know are able to execute on that idea. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of ideas, there are a few things there. There are ways in which, because it hinges on this topic too, groups and the kinds of benefits you get from them, right? So there are certain ways in which people help you. They could teach you, inspire you, invest with you, or share ideas with you. You only have limited amount of time, okay? And this is why, to be amongst a certain group of people, and this goes to what you just said, right? You're not going to waste your time sharing ideas with people who are not going to execute it, because it's like going out there tilling this barren soil. There's nothing here. Why are you swinging your hoe over there, right? It's like you go somewhere where at least there is a chance. So there is a.
Yeah, this is the manosphere. So whenever you say words that sound like that,
yeah, I was about to. I didn't know. Should I go that direction? Should I milk it or not?
Go ahead, milk it.
No, but so the whole thing about ideas, for me, since we're talking about how we're sharing it versus keeping the secret sauce and so on and so forth, I am very much of my challenge is the doing. In other words, so I'm always focused on the doing, right? And even for me, ideas, I tend not to even, or plans, tend not to write them down or think about them too much or too often, so on and so forth. Ideas tend to be means to an end. I know that it's really difficult to get things done. So when friends come through, for example, people, they're competent, right? And like, hey, let's start a band, right? I just, before they say, they sit around saying, what's the name of the band? And should we have a website? And should we do this? Or what? I just go and start writing songs and start recording the songs. And that's kind of like the story of my life, right? Basically. So I know that ideas are cheap, but once I get even a simple basic idea of, it's just like an inspiration, we should do this, and I follow through on simple ideas. It reminds me of the thing I was talking about, like starting a dry cleaning business, for example, and maybe that's your calling, It's like, it's really boring, but hey, if it succeeds, you can be pretty passionate about it afterwards, after you get the whole dry cleaning of a city. Anyways, execution is the challenge. Execution is what has seen me through to this point. And I then know that, okay, you have to then have a grand vision as well. The reason why I said my challenge and then my focus is because the thing I'm not saying is that it's easy for me. The idea part is easy for me, that I don't even have to think about it. The visionary part, like, let me sound like Kanye. I'm a visionary. I don't know if I told you guys, but so I just want to break it to you guys right now. I'm what you call a visionary. Anyways, but so that's the easy part. So I tend not to focus on it. The hard part is the doing. So I'm like, just do. And I've seen results over years that actually, when you do stuff, and those people who are in the music industry in the third year, they quit. But the people who stuck with it 7 years, on the 8th year, boom. We all know these stories, right? That kind of a thing. So, Wallace, did you have anything to add with regards to the prices that you pay, which is what this particular thread, the last thread on the conversation, the prices that you pay, the sacrifices that you have to give to the group, right? That's where this whole sharing of ideas came from. Sacrifices you have to give to the group in order to belong, in order to get the benefits, or any other thoughts that you may have as we start wrapping this up.
Yes, I would basically say that nowadays I understand that the sacrifice is basically an entry barrier. It's something that is made both to the protection of the group itself and both to the protection, let's say, of the individual. Because, for example, we are having this conversation right now. You have the entry barrier of StreamYard. For example, a troll wouldn't be able to come here and just start screaming and derailing all the conversation. So the entry barrier for this conversation right now is basically our five individuals right now. So the entry barrier can be used both for the individual who is getting into the group or whatever, feel that is worth it to be part of something. Because, for example, let's say if you want to make part of the hood group, they are going to ask you to do something that when you do that thing, you are already compromised. So you are not going to be able to, let's say, snitch on them or to turn your back on them. So you pay the price, and now they know that the price you already paid make you attach it. So it's
Blood
both
in,
for
blood
the
out. Go ahead.
yeah, something like that. So it's basically a principle to make both a protection for the one who is really who really wants, let's say, to get into a group or to be part of something, and also to the protection of the ones who are already inside that group. I would say basically that.
Generally speaking, along with a founding myth, now, along with a founding myth goes sometimes a founding crime, some kind of collective guilt that that tend to found peoples, and this goes into a particular study that I like to go into, which is the study of human sacrifice. Sacrificing people is something that peoples of the world do. I don't know, like we like to act like we don't do that, or we like to act like, oh, this is those people, like back in the day, people. We're different now. It's like, no, if you find patterns of behavior in human populations, you need to be very curious about them because they're still in you. In other words, what is it about us that gangs up on people and sacrifices them? We know that pattern. It still exists, right? We want to pick up stones and start stoning people to death, right? And doing those other kinds of things. But that came up just because you were talking about that needing to get jumped in, right? Needing to be complicit in some kind of a crime, need to get that blood in for you to be part of the group. If we kill somebody together, right? That kind of a thing. Now we're in it. Okay, now we're stuck with each other.
That's right.
But anyways,
blood in, blood out.
Exactly. So these things, they're quite meaningful and powerful. In other words, when studied anthropologically and psychologically, these emergent patterns, like the fact that we do sacrifices, the fact that we tend to gang up on people, that we do this mimicry where we want what other people want. If people don't want it, we don't want it. Nobody wants the red rock, but once one kid wants the red rock, all the kids want the red rock, right? It's okay. We're already out of time. but we're gonna go to Roger and then Blind Guy's wife. And what I'm saying is not that we're ending now, but let me not derail us. Yep. So what you got as closing thoughts and remarks to wrap it up? But maybe let me kind of coalesce what we've said so far. We asked the question, hey, do you need to see somebody like yourself in position of success? We have already understood that there are many ways in which you can talk about somebody that is like you. It could be ethnic, demographic, socioeconomic, and so on and so forth, right? But it could also be in terms of competence, intelligence, psychological makeup, or mode of operation, right? You can find your people in different aspects. We talk about different ways of going from one group to the other, being the young, broke guy driving a particular kind of car and the kinds of things you have to deal with versus then hiding in a better neighborhood in a nicer car. And all of a sudden, the cops don't care about what you're doing anymore, right? So we talk about all these different kinds of maneuvers. We talked about the CPR, which is basically that you get confidence, okay? That feeling, which I call a little cherry on top of the icing on the cake, right? Hey, that guy is like me. You get that part. You also get protection, which is the code part. We're on code. We have a preconceived contract, a cause, something we've already agreed to because of tribe, because of whatever it may be. Again, those myths, right? There are these overarching myths that kind of are playing to our advantage in that regard there. And then there is the reputation, the group reputation that you can partake of, benefit from, and so on and so forth. And if you focus on the ethnic one, you might see negative things. But when we start looking at, there are many different kinds of ways to be a part of a group. Man of Tomorrow. Shout out to MOT. I was listening to him. He was talking about, well, he's part of the ex-law enforcement and military industrial complex group, for example, like because he was a law enforcement officer and he was in the military. So now he does transportation, military industrial complex. There's a whole group there of people who are like, hey, you're one of us, right? That kind of a thing. So there are many ways to move from one group into another group. So that's kind of like the landscape we've had so far. So, Roger, what are your final thoughts? And we'll go to Blind Guy, his wife, their life, Corey, and Peter Marie.
When you broke it down in those different part of the groups, I definitely understood it more. Like I said, I was in the Marine Corps, so I was in the military, so I definitely understand when you get that group. It's like so if obviously I'm a black person, but the military is a damn close second. So that's a group that it really means a lot to me. So I always try to buy that group first, the veteran group, one way or the other. So yes, that once you broke it down that way, it was definitely broadening meaning to the conversation.
Gotcha. Yes. You see, yeah, there are many, because these groups are what have certain orders that then constitute these. What we're saying is quite fundamental to where our sense of morality comes from. Because this sense of morality, it's not just a kind of abstract thing. It has to do with the order of people that are like us, that we consider wholesome people. It's not an abstract notion. It is a thing that we can see that in our imagination, like, oh, those people. And that's how we tend to imagine it in terms of mythology, because we have to see the scene. And we're like, oh, yeah, I like that. I feel good with that. That's a good thing. Therefore, the rules that make that happen are what I consider morality. But anyways, what you got for us? Who's next?
Corey.
Well, and hearing that final summation, that was United Fitness that just talked before me, right?
Yep.
It definitely makes more sense. Like I said, we can we do gravitate towards groups, where we find different levels of similarity, because first, I tend to, rock with people that look like me as far as ethnicity wise, but I also tend to rock with people that, their fathers like me, they're married people, because otherwise you find it kind of difficult to start finding commonality and similarities to build a group dynamic around.
Single men without a family, don't resonate with you as much.
They don't resonate. Well, not saying they don't resonate.
Oh, you don't resonate with them.
I don't resonate with them. I'm the square in a group of a friendship group that's single and without children, so I don't resonate with them quite as well. And so I get it. Like I said, there's a lot that's on the line, especially when you get into the group when it comes to reputation, because the reputation of the group can precede you going forward in many different directions. And then also and that can be good and bad. And same way for the individual getting into the group, that their reputation can add to or detract from the reputation of the group that joined it. So
I think that's when we stick to the American way. Like, oh, I'll just be an individual at this point. That's the American way.
Right. And so I definitely concur. Group dynamics are important. You have to, you should be involved, and you should surround yourself in different groups. But like I said, you just got to be careful of the type of groups you're going to involve yourself with, and make sure that they're like mind, like spirit, and then proceed with caution as always.
Indeed. And as we continue here, we have another last minute guest here. I believe that's before the billions, right?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir? I catch you in the chat from time to time, but nice to see you up here on the panel. What you got? You got the floor. You got the mic.
Thank you so much for calling me in. So I want to say thank you for having me on the panel, and also salute to everybody who is in the panel as well, and also in the chat. So you're talking about Dan Pena. So I've heard so many things about Dan Pena, specifically because I follow a lot of people like Spencer Cornelia and also CoffeeZilla and a whole bunch of other people who are in that space. So hopefully you guys are familiar with them. I know you did a video on Spencer talking about TAM-gram payments. So in addition to that, I wholeheartedly do agree with what he's saying as far as, hey, you need to be around a specific kind of character in order to kind of, because I think that the quote is saying something like, I choose the friends out of your circle, and then that's who you'll be. So something along that lines. And that is exactly how it is. Because the people who you hang out around the most is the people who are giving you the most amount of information. So you're going to be absorbing a lot of the information that you'll be getting from people. So if you are hanging around people who are doing illegal things or doing things that are bad, then maybe the information that you're getting will also get you in trouble. But also just by associating with certain kinds of people, that will get you in trouble as well. Specifically, like wrong place, wrong time. And a lot of people don't know. Like my dad was a police officer. And he would always tell me like, "Hey, you're not supposed to hang out around the wrong crowd. You're always supposed to be around people who are going somewhere in life, so that way you won't get caught up in their nonsense." Um, so yeah, that's pretty much my 2 cents into it. And also, I have a story behind it as well. But the story, to be quick, is that I was doing photography for my cousin, and then a little later on, he had a friend of his come up, and he wanted to also join in on this photography shoot. But then he ended up smoking, you know, the devil's lettuce, right? At the photo shoot, and then he could have got us all in trouble. So I just had to tell him like, hey, we can't really hang around somebody who's going to be out here at the park, just smoking the devil's lettuce, uh, openly in front of a whole bunch of people. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
I like that you brought the dimension of you are the average of the five people you hang out with most, right? That whole idea here, to the degree to which you're influenced by people, as you say, get information from people, and to the degree to which you're a social animal, and then you're going to start taking on the mannerisms and the group identity of these people. You're going to get stuck to the heights and the kinds of levels that those kinds of people reach, right? Makes perfect sense. And so, Dr. Thunder, okay?
Why
Any,
don't we go Wallace first, then
yeah, why don't we go Wallace first? You're correct. Any final or parting thoughts, Wallace?
I would say that it was a great conversation to be part of, and this have gave me a lot of knowledge regarding how to make part of a group, how to understand the barriers when you're going to get inside a group, and how to maneuver in order to be able to understand which groups can you make part of, and which groups, if you associate yourself even just with the image. For example, if I dress like a Pookie and a Ray Ray, I will have the collateral effect of being treated and being perceived as so. So this conversation gave me a lot of insights and thoughts about how to maneuver in life and how to benefit from the fact, like for example, for be part of this conversation, to be able to see people that looks like me, that resembles, that have the lifestyle that one day I want to have, and this was really beneficial. I'm thankful for all of you, both that are in the panel and both to the ones who are into the chat room.
Excellent, excellent. Now, before we go to Dr. Thunder, I wanted to ask before the billions, because there's certain things that we've kind of gotten out of people in terms of where they stand, or shall we say, where their personality stands with regards to the things that we get from the people who look like us, right? So when it comes to that comfort piece before the billions, right? Because we said comfort, and then there's the protection and the reputation. Everybody can deal with the protection and reputation part. I think we all kind of get that. But some of us are more, yeah, I like that comfort. Some of us are like, what comfort? What people? I don't, whatever. I'm just here to do my thing. So where do you stand, or what's your personality with regards to that comfort piece of seeing other people like you?
Right. So, of course, I enjoy, just like how most people enjoy, people who are like-minded and also who look like me as well. I do find that comfort, right, in the sense of, hey, you know what? I know that I'm a part of the Black community, and I know that there are people who are in my area who are also within the Black community, and usually we share a certain kind of culture amongst each other, and it's more relevant to me, a lot of the things that are going on within the Black community as well. So I live in Atlanta, and I would relate to somebody who lives in Atlanta well before I relate to somebody who lives in like California or somewhere else, simply because we have something such as geographical, um, relevance to each other. So and just like I said earlier, is that the kind of information that you take in, like when you really think about it, our brains are set up in a way that is just specifically to take in and to then relay on information. So when you think about it like that, like as a logical from a logical standpoint, like, hey, not only am I relaying in information, what can I actually use this information for? So when it comes to people who look like me, they're probably going to be in the same area as me, probably going to have the same kind of experience, same kind of, it's going to be relevant. And it's going to be something that I can relate to. So that is my standpoint on it.
Very, very well put. Well, succinctly and concisely put. So, Dr. Thunder, sir, what you got for us?
Yeah. So, I think I'll plug a couple things. I am interviewing Mr. 1950 tomorrow night, which means that
Now, when he was born,
video-
1950?
Which means that video is going to air 10 a.m. on Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. So that'll be an interesting conversation. I just interviewed Ramil Amir. That video went live this morning at 10 a.m. And so you can check that out. I'm talking about my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series. I've got a Thursday night show coming on Thunder's Thoughts, and that'll be with Dr. Doug. And Friday, I'll be doing my usual Lessons with Dr. Thunder. So you can come and check that out. And then on Sunday, we'll be doing Case Closed, and that's with Ramil and Ike and Chantel Simone, and it's on Solo's channel. We did our first show this past Sunday, and it went really well. And that's a weekly show, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, we'll be back here on Tuesday, Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, yes, it's gonna be good stuff.
100%. Now, you guys go out there and subscribe. You already know. Subscribe to Blind Guy, His Wife, Their Life. Subscribe to Before the Billions. And Roger, what's the name of your channel? You must have a channel.
I do have a channel, United Fitness 360. It's my website. Sorry, United Fitness.
United Fitness, Before the Billions. Go ahead, subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. So we are out. We're done for now on this topic, okay? On this topic of, well, when somebody says next time, I need to see people like me, we can understand that there are many layers to it, the most superficial of which is the whole just comfort, okay? But when you go beyond that, there is the actual protection, and actual levers that can be moved as a result of having reputation, having air cover, having the ability to escape certain scrutiny because you're now a part of a particular group. And Dr. Thunder and everyone else has shared about the ability to move from one group to the other. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym and get yoked so I can be part of that group and share the benefits. That means that nobody messes with me, right? I'm going to drive this kind of a car so that I can continue riding dirty, but now they don't pull me over because I got it like that. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to those on the panel, Before the Billions, Blind Guy, His Wife, Their Life, Wallace, Roger, Dr. Thunder, and we are out. I'll be back here tomorrow. I'll be here with Joan doing a review as usual, and then on Thursday I'll probably have Jay Ibrahim, the voice of Africa, I have the voice of Africa to chop it up as we do on some more technical philosophical concepts. Always a pleasure. Good night.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.